There are stories that are meant to scare you, and then there are stories that are meant to protect you. And the legend of the Deer Lady falls somewhere in between. Across Native American traditions, especially among tribes in the central and southeastern United States, the Deer Lady appears in slightly different forms. But the core of the story stays the same. She looks like a woman, beautiful, calm, sometimes even gentle, until you notice her feet. Hooves. Not hidden very well either. Sometimes it's a flicker beneath a dress. Sometimes it's sound, soft at first then unmistakable. A hollow, rhythmic tapping that doesn't belong to human footsteps. And by the time you realize what you're looking at, it's already too late. Welcome back to Mealstownalivefor, the podcast where true crime, dark history, conspiracy, and food collide. I'm your host, Jody Breton, and every week we serve up the stories that are as disturbing as they are fascinating, paired with a meal inspired by the chaos. So grab a plate, lock your doors, and let's dig in. This week, I'll be making a blackberry and goat cheese flatbread. The Deer Lady is often said to appear along quiet roads, forest trails, or near bodies of water. Places where people are alone, places where no one is watching. In many versions of the story, she approaches men, especially men who are intoxicated, men who are vulnerable, or men who think they're in control. She doesn't threaten them, she doesn't chase them, she invites them. Sometimes she asks for a ride, sometimes she joins them by a fire, sometimes she simply appears and waits to be noticed. And if the man ignores the warning signs, if he follows her, that's when the story turns. Because the Deer Lady is not just a spirit, she's something much more specific. She's a reckoning. In many tribal tellings, the Deer Lady is connected to violence against women. Some say she was once a woman who was killed or harmed, her spirit returning in a vengeful way. Others describe her as something older, something that existed long before taking on this role deliberately. But almost every version agrees on one thing. She punishes those who harm women. Not randomly, not without reason. There's intention behind it. If a man has committed violence or carries that kind of intent, the Deer Lady seems to know. She doesn't need proof, she doesn't need witnesses, and she doesn't offer mercy. In some stories, she lures them deeper into the woods before revealing what she really is. In others, the transformation happens instantly. Her face shifts, her eyes change, and those hooves, once subtle, become impossible to ignore. What happens next isn't always described in detail, but the outcome is clear. He doesn't come back. In certain versions, people later find signs of a struggle: broken branches, disturbed earth, tracks that don't make sense, hoof prints where there shouldn't be any. But the Deer Lady isn't always portrayed as purely violent. That's what makes her different from a lot of other legends. In some tellings, she protects. There are stories of women and children encountering her in the woods and being left unharmed, even guided or watched over, as if she's deciding in each moment what someone deserves. That duality is important because the Deer Lady isn't just there to frighten people, she's there to enforce a boundary. A reminder that certain actions carry consequences even when no one else is around to witness them. And that idea shows up a lot in Native American storytelling traditions, not as horror for entertainment, but as a way of teaching. Respect the land, respect each other, understand that what you do matters, even when you think you're alone. The Deer Lady embodies that. She appears in places where people feel hidden, where they think they can act without being seen, and she proves them wrong. There's also something deeply unsettling about how she presents herself, because she doesn't look like a monster, not at first. She looks human, approachable, familiar, which forces you to question something uncomfortable. How do you recognize danger when it doesn't look like danger? That's the part that makes this legend stick. It doesn't rely on something grotesque or exaggerated. It relies on subtlety, a detail out of place, a feeling that something isn't right, and a choice to either trust that instinct or ignore it. Today, the Deer Lady still shows up in stories, sometimes in traditional tellings, sometimes adapted into modern settings, roads instead of trails, cars instead of campfires. But the core idea hasn't changed. She appears when she's needed. Not to everyone, not all the time. Just when the balance shifts. Just when someone crosses a line they shouldn't have. And maybe that's why the legend has lasted, because it speaks to something people still understand, even now. The idea that you are never truly unseen, that your actions follow you, that consequences don't always come from where you expect. So, if you ever find yourself alone at night, on a quiet road, or walking through the woods where the air feels just a little too still, and you hear something behind you, not quiet footsteps, not quite anything you can explain, it might be nothing, or it might be something watching, waiting, and deciding. And if you look down and you see hooves instead of feet, you'll understand why some stories aren't meant to comfort you, they're meant to warn you. I hope you guys enjoyed this short story. I certainly did, and I definitely enjoyed the flatbread. It almost felt like girl dinner on a flatbread, and somehow I think that Dear Lady would appreciate that. So let me know down in the comments what you thought, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.